What is up, good people of the internet? My name is Josh. This is the Nerdy News Hour. It's just like the news, but for nerds. I'm joined with Justin and Dan. Dan, what's going on, man?
Hey, we got quite a bit of news actually this week, so I'm pretty excited to get into the show. I'm Anime Dan.
And Justin, what's going on, brother?
I am Justin, and I am here, and I am very, very excited to talk with all of you guys today.
Yes, we've been trying to get this show going on for a while. We've had little hiccups here and there. It's, a process trying to learn this, get OBS going, have our ticker up and all of that. So we're pumped. It appears as though everything is working. It looks good to me. So let's roll into the first topic of the day. This will, of course, be Iron Fist. Now, I did a video on this, I think, last week. Basically, it really shocked me when I saw it and heard about it. Iron Fist, the Marvel Netflix series, is getting very bad reviews. I think it stands at a 13% currently on Rotten Tomatoes, which really took the wind out of my sails. I was really, really anticipating this show, pumped up to check it out. But now there's a lot of angst, trepidation, confusion, and different things like that. So Justin, I want to throw it to you first. I mean, what do you think about these bad reviews for Iron Fist? Have they dampened your enthusiasm?
I do have to say that Iron Fist was the hero I was most excited to see out of this entire Marvel Netflix series. So to hear that it's getting really poor reviews does really dampen my excitement. I really enjoy Iron Fist, enjoy reading his comics, enjoy playing him in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of upset. Of course, we'll have to judge for ourselves. There are plenty of things that have gotten universally panned by critics and have been loved by the audience. And I think we will just end up having to decide for ourselves. But I am going in with lower expectations than I had initially.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing for me. It's interesting. I read into some of the reviews. They don't really look good. It's kind of a big bummer. Dan, what do you think? I mean, are you still pumped for this? I mean, what do you think about these reviews? Do you think that legitimately they dropped the ball here or what?
Well, the first thing I wanted to know was how much of the show people were reviewing, and it looks like if you can confirm, it's the first 6 episodes was the early chunk they got to preview.
That was when, yeah, so from my understanding, and I could be wrong here, that was something that was given to outlets and to different members of the press, and people looked at the first 6 episodes, and that's when a lot of the first articles and different things like that came out. I'm not sure, though, on Rotten Tomatoes, if those people have seen all of it or not. It's really not clear to me. It seems kind of unfair if they're only viewing 6 episodes, which isn't even half. I mean, it's almost half of the season. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So I know that a lot of the negativity was focused around just the first 6 episodes.
Well, I think
So how many episodes is Iron Fist getting? It's getting 12, right? We're getting 12 episodes?
I believe it's actually 13. I think that's the
13?
model. Yeah, I think that's the current model for all of the Netflix shows. I could be wrong on that, though.
I mean, I got to be honest. If a show doesn't grab me within 6 episodes, I see no reason to continue it.
I
Yeah.
think that's a big enough chunk to form kind of an opinion on it.
Sure, that's fair. My only thing is, especially when you look at something like Daredevil Season 2, and we talked about this a little bit, Daredevil Season 2, although really good, starts really slow. It's an interesting kind of pace, and I really think that the really goodness. I was actually watching it last night. The real goodness does not happen until the second half of the season. I'm not exactly sure. Some of the stuff that I've read from the reviews is well, it's just so different than the other shows. The main character is pretty bland. I've also heard this outcry in the community that some of the things that are the problems people are having with it is that he's a white blonde guy, but that is Danny Rand. So I don't know why critics would be upset about that. I mean, you can't say, well, all of the critics should read these comics and understand it, but they should probably have a base level understanding of what the source material is. So I don't know. It's weird for me. I mean, I'm still gonna check it out. I love it. I'd love for the critics to be wrong. You know what I mean? But the thing is, if it sucks, I'm gonna have to be honest and say that it sucks. So
I'm not sure if critics should essentially require an understanding of the source material in order to judge it. The work basically should be able to stand on its own in order to be truly good. Like, I don't need to know all of the mythos behind Captain America to know that Captain America the First Avenger is a very, very good movie. I can just watch that on its own with no prior knowledge of Captain America and enjoy it. And I think it's integral for the show to be able to do that, especially when there's such a huge body of comics and such a huge body of media out there, especially when, like, how many reboots have Marvel and DC have, how many different rewritings and universes and all that. There's just so much. Which adaptation do you stay faithful to?
no, that's true, and that's definitely a fair point. I don't mean to cut you off, Dan, but I just think I agree with you. I just don't. My problem would be if it's that he's white and they're claiming whitewashing with a character who was always white. That seems really dumb to me. So I guess, like, you're absolutely right. The work should stand on its own, but that would be my only thing. Like, if you're sitting there crapping on this thing and saying that it's whitewashed, and you don't understand that Danny is a white billionaire who gets literally his plane crashes in the mountains and goes through some real tragic stuff and ends up being taken in by these monks, then I just can't see that being a valid complaint. But what were you going to say, Dan?
I was pretty much just going to agree with you that that's like a very logical criticism, because this is like it's an adaptation of the source material in which this white guy learns kung fu from monks, and it's not whitewashing to learn kung fu, I think. So I think that's right. You could make your argument that the original comic book would have been much more interesting if it just would have followed a monk who perhaps found his way into wealth and kind of twisted it that way. But at this point, it's definitely not, to change it would be give or take. But I think if they're trying to adapt the comic, this is the way to do it.
Right. Let me ask you guys this. This kind of just pops off to me. So the thing about this show is that it's very different than the other shows for a number of different reasons. One being, it's really supposed to be the catalyst for Defenders. So essentially, at least from my understanding from the peripheral stuff and the marketing stuff that I've looked at, Danny is supposed to be the one guy who actually knows what the greater threat is, and he is going to be the guy that sort of gathers the Defenders. At least that's my understanding of it. So do you think that because perhaps they're looking to the future with this show, that could be some of where the shortcomings stem from?
Oh, absolutely. That they could have ended up focusing just way too much on getting an established film for the Defenders, kind of like how Batman vs. Superman was less a Batman or Superman movie and more of a Justice League prequel movie. It might have benefited the show a lot better if we just had a focus on Danny Rand, and then we had the first season of the Defenders being the Defenders getting gathered together.
You know what? That's a fair point. What are your thoughts on that, Dan? Do you think that could be where some of the problems are coming from?
I think it's still way too early to find out. It's not even out yet. I'm going to have to watch it to say exactly where problems are coming from, if there are these problems. I think people are a little eager to make things into a big interwoven universe project these days, but I think going somewhere with that in like just your Netflix original adaptations would be a pretty cool idea. And the Defenders would be a great kind of, I don't want to call it a B team, but it's like, not the Avengers, but it would be a great team to see characters from Netflix shows coming together to be the Defenders. I would watch that. Yeah,
I'd be really interested to see, and I am going to be interested to see that dynamic there. I really almost feel like, and this is the last thing I'll do because I could literally talk about this forever, but I really think that they should have just followed the model of the comics. And what I mean by that is, like, Iron Fist and Luke Cage, especially Luke Cage, was never really super popular on his own until they did the whole Ebony and Ivory thing and put him with Danny and did like Lethal Weapon in the comics. That was hot. People loved that. So I'm just kind of like, well, why didn't they just do Power Man and Iron Fist as the series?
Yeah, that struck me too. I was surprised.
Yeah, so I don't exactly know. I mean, hey, look, they're allowed to miss. I mean, God, they've almost revolutionized television in a lot of ways. I think Daredevil season 1, like, I was so blown away by that. So I mean, they're allowed to miss and it'll be okay. But I really don't want them to miss, man. Like I don't want to give any ground. Like, if this is a bomb, it's gonna hurt me. I'm gonna have some nerd tears.
They've
Yeah,
done
man,
really well too.
Yeah,
they
they've
have
all
done
been
really well.
received critically very well. Yeah. But all right, guys, let's get into the next topic. You see it on the ticker. It is, of course, Andromeda, the next Mass Effect game. It's been 5 years since we've gotten a Mass Effect game. I love the first three games, especially the first one. And I don't honestly know too much about Andromeda. I just know that it's not continuing Shepard's story, which I'm kind of bummed about. Originally, I thought maybe it was like an MMO. It doesn't seem that it's going to be that, even though there's some kind of cooperative play that's in there. But Just, I want to throw it to you as our gaming expert. What's going on with Andromeda? Why should people be pumped about it?
So Mass Effect Andromeda takes place 600 years after Mass Effect 2. The game actually starts in Mass Effect 2 when people start figuring out that there might be this greater threat coming in to wipe out all known life in the galaxy. They end up forming this initiative to ensure that the races survive. And they throw a bunch of people in the cryostasis and they send them off to the Andromeda galaxy, where they found there are a bunch of planets that can actually support the survival of all these races. You're going to be seeing a lot of returning races. You got humans, of course. You got Krogan, Asari, Solarians. All the big players are coming back. You yourself will be playing as a human, either Scott or Sarah, I believe their names are, Scott or Sarah Ryder. And you will be able to customize both characters. You will be able to pick one of them, and then the other character will still exist in your larger story in a more supportive role.
Okay, very cool. So 600 years, that's a long time. That seems crazy. So, I mean, Dan, what do you think? Are you hype on Mass Effect first of all?
Now I love Mass Effect. I love the lore of it, but what really made me fall in love with it was the multiplayer aspect that they introduced later on in the franchise. I was way into the multiplayer of Mass Effect 3. I played that well after BioWare was supporting it with events and things. And they're bringing it back for Andromeda, and I'm hoping that they stick pretty close to that original formula, because it was a big success. People loved it. It was a co-op multiplayer where you were fighting big AI boss creatures from the game, waves of enemies, and then it ran on a really great blind buy loot box system where you would get all kinds of guns and gizmos to upgrade your characters and your classes as you leveled up and fought in more difficult gauntlets.
Sounds dope. So they're bringing back the multiplayer aspect. So is that kind of where you're going to jump in right away? Are you interested in the story? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what's the bang for the buck thing here with Andromeda?
Well, it's a full game. It's $60 to get this, and it's a huge download. How many gigs is it, Justin?
Yeah, Justin was complaining about the gigs earlier.
So I will be reviewing Andromeda for you all. I did get into EA Access, so I can download the trial and start playing the first 10 hours of the game early. I'm allowed to try multiplayer and all that, but I'm just going to be looking strictly at the story. There is a review embargo up until the 20th, so you won't be seeing any sort of first impression or anything from me until after that. But I know the trial itself, just the trial, completely separate from the main game, is 44 gigabytes that I am currently downloading on Origin. And I'm just looking at... Sorry, I didn't have Origin open at this time, and it takes forever to load because it's not
No problem.
a very
Let me know how
good
long
game
it's still got to go. But I was just bringing up that it's an investment of money.
I think it's like 55 gigs.
55 gigs. It's an investment of money, and it's an investment of space, obviously.
Yeah.
To do. So it's really got to deliver on both aspects. I love multiplayer in games, especially in these great co-op games. And even if this multiplayer knocks it out of the park, it would still have to have more content than Mass Effect 3 multiplayer for it to be worth $60 to access.
Sure.
So if we hold that Mass Effect quality, the multiplayer quality steady, then the story game would have to deliver. It would have to be a really cool game. And at this size, it has to be an expansive, awesome game.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the first one in 5 years. I mean, do we know scale-wise? I mean, the storage obviously gives us an idea, but do we know as far as explorability, how big is this new galaxy? Do you got any info on that, Justin?
There are going to be quite a few planets that players can explore and quite a few side quests you can undertake on those planets that will, grow as you check out the planet, talk to the inhabitants. You'll be able to establish outposts on the planet. They're bringing back the equivalent of the Mako from Mass Effect 1, so you will be able to once again drive around planets and find stuff that way.
Hopefully the handling is improved over the course of 5 years. The Mako was like a notorious, it's an infamous video game vehicle for how ridiculously bad it was to drive. It frequently just flew up into the air for no reason. I also want to point out that the Mass Effect series has been guilty of putting in a lot of places with nothing to do in the past.
Nothing at all,
huge galaxies full of planets that you land on, and there's either nothing or something to take a picture of with nothing to really interact in. So hopefully I'm going to see a big galaxy that's populated with meaningful destinations. That would kind of sell it for me. Even if the story is lackluster, a big, crazy alien galaxy to explore would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure, because they've kind of No Man's Skied it a little bit. Like, I remember in the second one, there were all these different planets that you explored, and you had to, first of all, the interface for gathering was so boring in that game, because I don't even think you didn't even go onto the planet. You just had the planet up there, right? And then you kind of scanned around. Yeah, that's the sound, yeah. And so, yep. And and all those planets, there was just different little shading things. There's graphical differences, but it was pretty much all the same. My thing, one of the things I wanted to touch on, you said, so there's an embargo right up until the day before, right?
Yes.
Is that common? Because in the movie world, in most media, that's a bad sign. So can you speak to that? Do you think that's a bad sign, or is that pretty commonplace?
It is actually very, very worrisome. A lot of games that we've seen that come out with that review embargo, where it's just up to the day before, it usually seems to be that way more often than not, because the quality of the title is not up to snuff, and the publisher does not want reviewers lampooning the game in a time frame where people can cancel their pre-orders.
Yeah, interesting. Man, what do you think about that, Dan? Is this worrisome? Are we getting some Batman v Superman vibes here?
I feel like BioWare and EA can almost say, one of the main valuable features of our games are original and compelling storylines, and so our embargo is in place so that storyline isn't spoiled for people, causing them to lose value in our product. I could see how they can say that, and I'm almost on their side, but at the same time, I feel like if your story is truly that good, people will go through the effort to see it even if there are spoilers out there, you know what I mean? So, kind of skirting the line again, we'll have to see once it comes out.
Speaking of spoilers, I kind of want to attest to that. I've been reading like a lot of the beginning coverage for the game from multiple news outlets, and the impressions either seem to be incredibly positive or incredibly negative. There really isn't any sort of middle ground there. I see a lot of people saying that they end up throwing too much at you in the beginning of the game. Like, boom, here's crafting. Boom, here's exploration. Boom, here's all of these characters that you get to meet. And it just almost seems like too much to do. On the other hand, a lot of people are praising that beginning aspect of the game. And one thing I really want to touch on that a lot of people seem to be universally lampooning about Mass Effect Andromeda from the footage that we've been able to see is the animation. The animation does not look good. It does not look good at all. The way the faces move, the faces of the characters seem more often dead in pretty much any spot except for their lips.
Wow.
We've seen a ton of instances of graphical glitches where characters seem to be like crab walking and their animation rigs are breaking. We've seen instances of just generally walking and running cycles that seem to be just not up to snuff and not quality. A lot of people are saying that, Mass Effect 3 and even going back to Mass Effect 2 looked better than this game.
I gotta ask,
in terms of the characters,
if you've seen this, I've seen this meme floating around. I just need to know if you can confirm or if this is like a shop or if it's real. But there's this Asari holding a pistol, like a laser space pistol, and then there's an image of like the pistol's model to the side that shows that she's holding it completely backwards, like the pistol's just flipped around. And is that like, I could see like, is that a story element, like she doesn't know how to hold a gun and the person's about to laugh, or is this just like rendered improperly and the gun is flipped?
from what I've seen from the trailers, that actually does seem like it's accurate.
Oh, okay, like
Okay.
she's supposed to hold it backwards as kind of a
No,
joke.
no, that she is holding it backwards and it's not supposed to be
And
that
it's
way.
just okay, yeah, like
Damn.
It's just a mess up.
misplaced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, here at the Den, we love to shit on things that are shitty. So if
But
Andromeda comes out and it's no bueno, we're gonna let you know. But Justin, you're
I will
handling the review.
to compliment Sandwich that I will say that the combat of the game has been receiving nothing but universal praise.
And it needed it.
So as far as the actual game portion of the game goes, the me controlling my spacemans and shooting dudes part, that seems to be absolutely rock solid.
Okay.
So if you are more of a gameplay person as opposed to a story person, you'll likely enjoy that.
Interesting, which is
All
so
right.
weird because isn't that kind of the way that Mass Effect went though? Because the first one was like all story. It was almost like some of the combat was at the level of like a simulator, and then it two went full combat and didn't necessarily abandon the story, but that was less of a thing. It was streamlined, and then 3 was like pretty much a combat game. You know what I mean? At least to my knowledge, that's what I remember. Is like the first one was embedded with story,
I got
and then
so bored of like you go into a room and you see a bunch of like waist high things in the room and you're like, oh, gonna have to fight guys in here. Look at all these barrels
Yeah.
and ledges.
Oh yeah, the chest high walls rooms that have been prevalent since Gears of War. Yeah,
Yeah,
those
that's
have
true.
definitely become a thing, and I'm actually seeing less of that in Andromeda just because you can take cover behind anything now.
Oh,
Nice,
cool.
that's cool.
That'll be
That's
much
cool.
more immersive. Well, we should probably jump on.
Yeah,
to our
let's
next-
absolutely, Daniel. Absolutely. Let's head into the next topic, which you see it on the ticker. It is the Matrix Reboot question mark. So this news broke, I believe yesterday, could have been 2 days ago, where Warner Brothers said they are actively developing a Matrix reboot. And I've heard a ton of different things. I've heard maybe Michael B. Jordan was being eyed for the lead. I heard they were really trying to get Keanu Reeves. I heard maybe Keanu Reeves wouldn't do it without the Wachowskis. I heard Warner Brothers isn't interested in the Wachowskis. There's a ton of different things going on at this stage in the game. We can probably only speculate. But first question, Dan, in general, how do you feel about a Matrix reboot?
You know, the article I read about this brought up a great point that right now is, unfortunately for big Hollywood studios, is the era of reboots. Right now, the gold in Hollywood isn't original ideas, it's loved IPs. And they're rare to find these days. Stuff that hasn't already been mined for sequels is tough. And The Matrix is one of those last big sci-fi rocks right up there with Star Trek, Star Wars, that is primed to be hit for sequels and remakes. So we should have expected this, I think. They also compared it. There's some mixed feelings. Some people in the studio think that The Matrix should be treated like Casablanca. They also have that, and they're say no redos, no remakes on Casablanca. It's gonna stay a classic film. But some people say, The Matrix is a big science fiction trilogy already.
Sure.
It's not such a sacred piece of film that we can't reboot it and bring it more relevant into the times.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they made Reloaded, I feel like it lost its Casablanca likeness. Justin, I mean, what are your, just off the top, what are your thoughts on Matrix reboot? You into it? You not into it? What are you feeling?
I'd be into it if it wasn't in any sort of way tied into a sequel type deal. Like, they saved Zion, but Zion was in the Matrix the whole time, and this is the actual thing, and the dead humans were in a Matrix. Like, no. But the Matrix in and of itself is a very, very novel idea, and I could honestly see a sort of prequel or a sort of side story like they did with the Animatrix that could definitely work very, very well. I mean, especially even the Matrix game. I don't know if you guys ever played the Matrix game.
Hell yeah. Game was hot.
Awesome. It was great. And it told an excellent side story going along with the Matrix. And there is a whole lot of universe for them to mine as long as they just do it maybe parallel to the first film. Or maybe there's a different subset of the Matrix that didn't get explored, and maybe this subset of the Matrix, isn't in whatever modern day was. This subset is like, okay, this is the year 1600 in this Matrix, and that's the portion of this Matrix that the people live in. And there could be portions for different eras in human history, and there's a lot you could mine from that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what's interesting is there's a deep like mythology or mythos to the Matrix. The fact that the one is this recurring thing that keeps happening. And were there five predecessors before Neo? Is that correct? So I mean, you could deal with one of those predecessors. You could deal with the next version. I love the idea of the Matrix. There was the Matrix Online. I think didn't they do like an MMO kind of thing going on with it? Because
They did. It was very short-lived.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The IP can support that kind of an idea. I mean, you can essentially have all of these people, logging in, as it were. It could be a potential thing where the Matrix, like people have chosen to live in the Matrix. Like we broke it down for everybody, and everyone's like, "Yeah, fuck that. I'd rather live in the Matrix." And so I don't know. I think it could be really interesting. I'd love for Keanu Reeves to come back, but maybe not as the lead. Maybe as like just, I don't want to say a cameo, but like a big nostalgic payoff. Because as you were alluding to, Dan, nostalgia plays right now. It plays big, and I think we would be remiss to not talk about the current state of things over at Warner Brothers. So they kind of need some franchises. They need some fuel like that.
They do.
So this could be a good fit for them. You know what I mean?
It would be a great, if they can get it to work, I think this is a good idea. I want to point out that the siblings are really the key here. We've heard the producer who worked with them, he was willing much earlier to go ahead and let's do this. Let's bring back the Matrix and do some sequels. But he sold, his rights to the movies, so he didn't really have. The studio said that they value the public's opinion of them getting the sentiment of the Wachowski brothers more than the producer. They don't want to alienate the siblings in front of the public. So we think that at the bare minimum, they're going to want to get at least a blessing from the directors, like, okay, we like the direction you're going with this, kind of a thing. And that could be, very small, could have almost no impact on the film. We could still get a very, kind of like a cash grab sequel to The Matrix. But they did kind of compare it to a Rogue One style. They were going to say, they said they would kind of mine more areas in the expanded universe as opposed to just making a direct sequel to the trilogy.
That sounds pretty cool. I think those are great ideas. I mean, I want it to happen. I really do. I actually have a soft spot. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I have a soft spot for the sequels to The Matrix. I mean, obviously the first one is the most solid out of all of them, but there were certain things that I really enjoyed, like Seraph, the other pilots. There's a lot to love there. So I don't know. Bottom line, let's do a buy or sell. Bottom line, buy or sell. Justin, are you buying or selling a Matrix reboot?
As far as a Matrix reboot, with the way reboots have generally been going, I'm going to sell on it. I don't really think it's going to add too much to the Matrix, especially when, of my personal opinion, that the Matrix films only got worse as they went on, with the original one being the crown jewel of the trilogy. So I'm not really expecting much from a Matrix reboot or a Matrix sequel or anything like that, so I'm going to sell on it.
Gotcha. Dan, buying or selling? Matrix?
Oh, I'm buying. I love The Matrix. I'm willing to take another shot at it, even if it's a risky move. I'll do it for some more Matrix content. I think it could be really cool, especially, right now, you've been saying over and over that the reason the Marvel Cinematic Universe is popping off right now like it is because they put people in charge who have had experience with movies for a long time. And I think at this point that there's the potential for them to make the same moves and put A-list director, A-list celebrity in there who are going to do a good job and make a quality film that could be, I almost hate to say it, but the jumping off point for the Matrix Cinematic Universe, which we then have to get ready to enjoy.
No, I mean, that's a totally fair point. I think that, it's so funny if you look at the history of, by the way, totally buying the shit out of a Matrix reboot. Okay. I love that idea. But just real quick, I want to say it's so interesting to me because the Wachowskis literally essentially launched their entire career and launched Keanu Reeves, big resurgence in cinema. I mean, guys, they put together a sizzle reel like really pitched the studio. They got $100 million deal per movie based upon some stuff that they were doing within their own studio. So they hustled that. They loved the vision. They put everything they had into it.
Reeves says he won't do it if the brothers aren't back in.
Right, I have heard that. Yeah, so that's very interesting. I mean, the movie's a phenomenon. I mean, it came out. It's so interesting to me. It came out, I believe, the year that Combine happened. Columbine. And so in theaters, it actually did not make a ton of money, but then it went on to like annihilate and make them like $1 bajillion.
Oh, it was the top grossing film in 1991 when it premiered. The first.
Oh,
the
so
first
it
Matrix
did
movie.
hit in the box office as well?
Yeah, the first Matrix movie was a box office smash. It did well,
Nice.
but it
Okay.
was notably it was like kind of a slow year for movie releases. But yeah, it did very well when it released.
Okay, so I was under the impression that it didn't do stellar in the theater right away and kind of like caught traction later. I could be totally wrong on that, but that was my understanding, is that, well, it kind of was like that Family Guy effect where basically like it didn't do so hot right away, and then there was so much hype for it build around, Blu-ray
It won
sales,
multiple
sales.
Academy Awards.
So that's probably
Yeah.
what happened. So it
was-
got a big bump. Okay, and then it got re-released probably. That's what happened.
I don't have the timeline of the exact releases, so I wouldn't be able to. I don't want to say anything and then be wrong.
No,
about
yeah,
it, so.
I got you.
But it was
Interesting
very
stuff.
successful upon release. It was.
Yeah,
And it had
huge
the
franchise.
cutting edge special effects were a big part of that too. Like just the slow motion bullet time effects. That was
Oh, yeah.
revolutionary. Movies
Oh,
copied
yeah.
that. They still copy that. That was
They still
insane.
copy that. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? One of the things too, it launched the DVD when DVDs were first crazy and then coming out, and everybody's trying to sell DVDs. The DVD of The Matrix was a go-to. So like essentially, if you had the DVD, if you had the hot new shit, the DVD player, you'd put on The Matrix, the airport
Matrix.
scene. And people would just be like, "Oh my god, I can hear everything. I can see everything." And it was so cool compared to VHS. All you young whippersnappers out there, you have no idea. You got no idea how good you got it. But let's go into the next topic. This is the Star Wars, John. And essentially, guys, there was this thing that popped off to me. Frank Oz was asked about Yoda returning in The Last Jedi. And he gave the sort of non-answer that I believe reeks of actual information. I don't have that quote up exactly. Dan, do you have that article pulled up?
Give me 1 second and I will
Sure.
get it on my screen here.
Sure. So this left a lot of people kind of thinking, oh man, like why would he answer that way? I've heard rumors that in the original script for episode 7, at the very end of the film, when we see Luke Skywalker, that there was supposed to be a Force ghost Yoda standing next to him. And in fact, if you watch that movie again, which, like, let's be real, we're all going to watch that movie again, at the very end, he looks down to his left, actually, and then turns around to see Rey. And a lot of people think, well, that's where that Yoda was going to be, and, they just kind of left it in the film and whatnot. But the question is, do we think that Yoda is going to be in The Last Jedi? Justin, I'll go to you first, and then Dan, when you pull up that quote, we'll read the actual quote.
Absolutely. Not only are we getting rumors of Yoda returning, but we're getting so many rumors of other characters returning that seem like they hold water. I've got a website open called From the Grapevine. We're getting not only news of the return of Yoda, but there's also rumors that Hayden Christensen will return as Anakin Skywalker. There's rumors that Warwick Davis will return as Wicket the Ewok. We know Captain Phasma is coming back, and we're also getting rumors that Ewan McGregor will reprise his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yep. And I'll just speak to one of those rumors really quickly, the Ewan McGregor thing. So essentially, I'm crazily obsessed with Star Wars. I am checking everything out that I possibly can, rumors, otherwise, spoilers, it doesn't matter, give it all to me. So one of the things that was interesting was Kathy Kennedy, I believe, made a statement that said something to the effect of, well, the reason we have not jumped on the Obi-Wan Kenobi film is that he is not done in the saga films. And this kind of made news a couple months ago, and everyone was like, "Holy crap!" She literally just said Obi-Wan has a large role to play in the continuing saga films, and then that is why they're holding back on the Obi-Wan movie. So I think it would be a total obvious move to put Ewan in these movies, Force Ghost or otherwise. Because I've heard rumors that Rian Johnson is going full-on flashbacks. We've never had actual flashbacks in Star Wars, and I have heard that Ryan's going to do some flashback action on us. So if we get some I know, right? Like if we get some flashbacks, oh man, like why not put Ewan in there? Maybe we'll see the conception of Rey, as it were.
Oh my word!
on Tatooine. But do you have that
I got
quote?
that
Dan?
quote right here.
Yeah.
It was Oz being asked about Yoda. He says, "I feel like I'm a prisoner at war here. I can only give you my name, rank, and serial number. To be true to the people who asked me, and they are kind of my family, I have to say I've been asked not to talk about it. I love Yoda. I would be happy to talk to you about it at the time they let me." So we don't have any hard confirmation either way, but we know that they asked him not to confirm or deny it. So we know that it's on the table at least. They wouldn't say anything if it was not at play at all. So
for sure. It's so different than someone being like, "Yo, Frank Oz, is Yoda coming back?" and him being like, I got nothing, you know what I mean? Or like, I have no idea. For him to say, "I feel like a prisoner at war," man, like what the hell does that mean?
He knows. Come on.
There is something else at Star Wars Celebration in Europe, and this is from the Grapevine article again. Yoda puppeteer was spotted giving an interview, and the quote I have here is, "He looked at both of us and said that members of the original Yoda team have been called in to work on Episode 8 using the Yoda 8 puppet."
Oh shit!
Oh wow!
Oh my
I didn't
god!
heard anything about that.
Yeah, I mean that kind of pulls some pieces together. For sure.
I don't know how. I don't know how credible like that hearsay information is, but if it is accurate, that not only gives us two things that we can confirm. One, Yoda is returning, but two, they're using a puppet and not
He's
CGI
back in
Yoda.
Physical effect. I was
Yes,
really
yes.
hoping you were gonna say that. I love that idea. I was in the mental camp that Yoda lost so much of his charm when he was backflipping around in the Senate room and just... I get that he's younger at the time, but he's like a human lifespan younger. He's still like 800 something. How come now he can flip around and do everything, and then in a few years he's got a hunchback in the swamp? Just so it would be really great to see the like realistic puppet Yoda coming back as, again, more of a wise sage than like a pint-sized powerhouse.
You know what's so funny to me too is like what I find really interesting is the whole environment surrounding Episode 8 and Episode 7 to me is fascinating, because Luke, we know almost immediately after the battle on Endor, Luke is out looking for Jedi artifacts. He is out looking for deeper knowledge of the Jedi, and I'm talking ancient Jedi. And I truly believe, and this is something that like Pablo Hidalgo has kind of hinted at on Twitter, a lot of other people that are writers for the story group have said this, that the Jedi, Yoda's Jedi, that era of Jedi, they were dogmatic and they were wrong. They were straight up wrong. And so you see in a lot of these ancillary pieces of entertainment, whether they be books or comic books or Rebels, this shift towards the gray, the shift towards not so black and white and the vision of the Force and everything. And I've talked about this before, but I find it fascinating. Like, what will Yoda's role be as a sage, as a Force ghost who's hanging out with Luke Skywalker, aka the Last Jedi? And what does that look like? Like, can you see a thing where Yoda, I mean, because if he's there, he has to play a role. He has to be imparting some wisdom on Luke. But at the same time, you're talking about Luke, who beat the Sith by attachment, not by detachment. He literally went against the code and was successful in defeating the Sith that way. And he's also been searching for greater knowledge. So, like, I love the aspect of Yoda being in there, but, like, what if Yoda's, like, wrong? You know what I mean? Is he just the grumpy old Jedi Master that's like, oh, that's not the way my Jedi did it, you know, and all that. So I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on that, Justin?
I really think that Yoda, in and of himself, is going to be imparting on Luke that there is not really a wrong way to Jedi, I guess. Because I mean, let's look at Qui-Gon Jinn for a second. Qui-Gon Jinn, kind of a loose canon, whether you're looking in the current canon or looking in the EU. Like I read those
Right.
Jedi Apprentice books when I was a kid. I was
Yes, love those
absolutely
books.
enthralled with learning about Qui-Gon training young Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Qui-Gon, all about attachment. Qui-Gon had a lover. Qui-Gon, just did all of these things that weren't super into the Jedi Code, and he had a lot of attachment to Yoda, and he had a lot of attachment to Dooku as well. So I really feel like we are going to be seeing this form of Jedi that we haven't seen for a long time in the games. A lot of people like to pen Jedi in their minds as, super lawful good, super kind of a Boy Scout sort of deal. And this is not the time for that kind of Jedi. And
Right.
I think Yoda, and if he returns Obi-Wan and if he returns Anakin, all realize that. And so they are going to be imparting on Luke, who is therefore going to be imparting on Rey, and maybe vice versa later on in the films with just the Force Ghost talking straight to Rey, that, now is the time to just do whatever is necessary to defeat the Sith.
Sure. Interesting thing. I want to just say one real quick thing, and then I got a question for you too, Dan. So interesting that you bring Qui-Gon up, because in the Mortis episodes of Clone Wars, which are canon, Qui-Gon reaches out to Yoda and has been training with those Force priestesses. Some people are like, yeah, these are the wills. We're kind of iffy on if they are exactly the wills or not. But the point is this: he is reached out to by Qui-Gon, and when Yoda talks to the Force priestesses, a lot of people think it is implied that they tell Yoda that Order 66 is going to happen, and Yoda allows it to happen. Very interesting stuff, and they're trying to set in this whole thing where perhaps Yoda, when exiling and saying that he failed and all that stuff, like, because a lot of that's confusing, right? Like, wait a minute, what do you mean you failed? You guys were just having this epic battle, and now all of a sudden you're just leaving. There's a lot there that we don't know about, but it tends to lend itself to the possibility that a much greater threat, aka maybe Snoke, is out there, and that perhaps certain things had to happen in order to prepare the galaxy for Snoke's arrival. Dan, my question to you is, if we get Grandmaster Yoda in Force Ghost form in Episode 8, what kind of a role do you think he's going to play? I mean, is he going to have some imparting wisdom for Luke, for Rey? I mean, what do you think his state of mind would be like?
It's really interesting to see just the idea of these Force Ghosts becoming more fleshed out characters, because to me they always felt like an afterthought in the original Star Wars movies, because they just kind of like, there they are at the end, right? They just look at each other. They're not like conversing or exchanging ideas or anything. So it would be really cool to see, almost like to see a council of the Force Ghosts talking to each other, and then maybe disagreeing. Like we said, like, how interesting would it be if Force Ghost Luke Skywalker, storms away from Force Ghost Yoda? It's like, what does that mean? Are the ghosts misaligned now? Are they going to give conflicting advice to Rey? Force Ghost Anakin Skywalker is like, you know what? Sometimes you just have to cut some people up. You got to get some people done.
Yeah.
Sometimes younglings get in the way. And then Force Ghost Yoda's like, hold on a second. Let's move a rock with our mind. Let's calm down about this. Carry a small person around on your back for a while, and that'll make you, feel more clearly about this. And then, where are we going to go? It's going to be cool.
No, I love that idea. I love them being fleshed out characters, because Force Ghost Obi-Wan, especially in Return of the Jedi, is a fully formed character. He's admitting flaws. He's talking to Luke about things that happen. He's it's very interesting to me. He's definitely more of a fleshed out character in that film. And so I would love to see Yoda more fleshed out. I guess it's just interesting to me to see, where would he be at mentally? You know what I mean? Where would you be at mentally if you're one with the Force? The thing is, the whole reason that they are like immortal, the whole reason that they're still here, so to speak, in whatever form you want to consider that, is because they need to help. Like, there's a lot of people that watch A New Hope and believe that, like, yo, those missiles that are closing in on Luke during the Death Star run, that's Ben Kenobi, that's Obi-Wan as a Force ghost manipulating that. You know, that, like, they are doing a lot of stuff, because remember when Obi-Wan says in Empire, if you go to face Vader, I cannot interfere. That kind of implies that he's interfered before. You know what I mean? So I'd love to see that and what they actually are doing a little more fleshed out, and for them to be fleshed out as characters.
Yeah,
but
just the concept to be a little more.
Yeah.
Like, what are these? Can they touch things?
Exactly,
Da, 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 da.
because I think that kind of could tie into more of like the wills. It could tie into more of the actual mythology of the Force, because they're expanding that shit. I mean, right now we have so many different like worshippers of the Force. You have the Guardians of the Wills, you know, you have the Night Sisters, you have the people that follow the Aphrodite on Jakku, you know, you have the Knights of Ren. I mean, they are really filling out the people that understand worship and use the Force. So I think, man, if the Jedi, because not all the Jedi could do the whole Force ghost thing. I mean, Qui-Gon could communicate, but he didn't master it enough to take form. So interesting. What is that? Because here's my theory, is that I truly believe that Snoke is a fallen shaman of the Wills. So if Snoke's a fallen shaman of the Wills reaching out to the Jedi, which just at the time are pretty much the only game in town when it comes to the light side, they're probably reaching out to try to prepare them to battle Snoke. I mean, he's the fallen angel, he's Satan, he's super strong. So I think that could be where we're heading, you know, which would be really interesting. I mean, maybe Yoda's not there to impart Yoda wisdom. Maybe Yoda's there to impart the wisdom that the Force is sharing with him. You know what I mean? Could be cool. Could be cool. But I don't know, guys. You got anything else? Let's do it percentage-wise. What is the percentage that you think is the chance that Yoda will be in The Last Jedi? Justin, what's the percentage chance?
100.
Oh
Zero
my
here.
God!
Mind that nostalgia, just like Dan said in the Matrix. Mind that nostalgia. Force Awakens was all about establishing this universe and all that. We had a couple nostalgia throwbacks there, but now we're gonna mine that nostalgia. We're gonna get Yoda. I think we're gonna get Obi-Wan. I think we're gonna get Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, regardless of how polarizing that might be to some people.
Very polarizing. Let me
It's-
just answer that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even though Anakin Skywalker was an excellent character in the Clone Wars, and I will fight you on that.
No, I agree. I agree.
I think we're going to be just seeing a lot of, you know, the old guard returning to train Rey. It's not only going to be for them to, you know, mine that nostalgia, but also for them to address all of the people who haven't gone into the expanded universe and are like, how was Rey able to battle Kylo Ren? Which I will also fight people that say Kylo Ren is weak, because he is probably one of the strongest Sith we've ever seen, and he's not even completed his training yet. But
I agree.
We're gonna get all that
I tend to
addressed.
agree with you there. Yeah, that could be a whole nother video, because I think he's strong AF. But Dan, percentage chance that Yoda's going to be in The Last Jedi?
I'm gonna say I'll be a little more conservative. I'll say there's probably a 70% chance. I'm still leaning towards yes, but I also think that they're kind of. I think I heard something that the first movie in this trilogy was leading nostalgia foot forward, and they kind of symbolize that also by killing off Han at the end. And I think that in the next movie we'll have like maybe one or two classic Star Wars characters to help us get into the story or contribute in a new way, get us that nostalgia factor. But I think it's really going to start to turn and shine much more on the interactions between Rey and Finn and Poe and the Resistance and that sort of thing. I think it's going to be, here's this new cast. Oh, hey, remember Yoda? That's what I think.
Right. Yeah, no, that's probably a fair point. I'm going to go just a little under you. I'll go 65%. I think there's a big chance that Ryan really wants Yoda to be in there, but you know, it could be that the studio heads or whatever are like, let's cut a little bit of that out. I don't think he's going to play a huge role in it. I think we're going to focus on the new characters. We're going to focus on Snoke and all these different things. I'd love to see him in there. You know, what'd be really cool for me is like if let's say Luke is in the cave talking to all the Force ghosts, and we see him for like a split second as Rey is entering the cave, and then they all
Oh,
disappear.
that would
Like
be
they
nice.
want,
Just like
like
a
they,
flash.
right? They want nothing to do with her. And, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like, and then she's like, "What the hell was that?" I think that'd be really cool and a nice little play on it. But I mean, if they've got the puppet people back, it's probably a real thing. It's probably happening. And you know, they could do flashbacks too, like I said, with force visions or whatever. So it
Exactly.
could.
Yeah, force vision, a force hallucination of like, oh, remember when Yoda did this, and then we go back. That's a good idea too.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, remember when
Definitely.
Obi-Wan was an old man on Tatooine, just like fighting Tusken Raiders because he was bored? Remember that? That
Yeah,
was great.
definitely. No, that was hot. And then he, banged that one chick, and now we've got Ray, so that's pretty cool. But in either case, guys, super cool. We actually did it. We did the episode. That's what I'm talking about.
Streamed and
This is
everything, baby.
streamed and everything. We're live. So yeah, guys, this is the Nerdy News Hour. We're gonna be doing this every week. We're gonna touch on the nerdy topics of the week. This is the Den of Nerds. So like this Facebook group so that you can get the updates when we go live. Also, make sure to go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We cover all sorts of awesome nerdy things. Make sure you check out that review of Andromeda that Justin's gonna be working on. We're gonna put it up before the embargo so that we get sued. It's gonna be dope. Also, Samurai Jack review. These guys, I don't even watch the show, and I loved their review. So, Samurai Jack review probably going up tomorrow. I am, of course, going to cover Iron Fist. I may stay up till 4 a.m. or whatever, cover some Iron Fist for you. So, Den of Nerds, tons of cool stuff going on. Make sure that you stay in tune with it all and follow us on the social medias. Before we sign off, Justin, any last words, and where can the people find you online?
People can find me on Twitter at Emperor Justin because I love being completely full of myself for the sake of sarcasm. And they will be seeing me hard at work on my Andromeda review over the next few days. I'm going to be doing a first impressions video where I show you guys the first maybe like 20, 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing some multiplayer with our very own Dan Thomas, Anime Dan, and we're going to be looking at as many classes as we can to try and give you guys the scoop, help you guys, decide on what you might want to play in that multiplayer. And then finally, we're going to be uploading a review as well of all of Andromeda. I'm going to be recording footage. I'm going to be tirelessly working to try and get you guys that as soon as possible.
Hell yeah. Dan, any last words, or where can the good people find you online, brother?
Nah, man, Justin told you most of what my projects are. Andromeda multiplayer is going to be dope. You can always hit me on my YouTube channel, Anime Dan. I've got some great gameplay on there. I'm going to do some character profiles real soon. And you can follow me on Twitter at anime__Dan.
Absolutely. And guys, you can find me on Facebook, Joshua Lucas, Joshua Adam Lucas on Twitter. Just got the old Instagrams. My name on there is Josh Likes Comics. And of course, you can find me on the Den of Nerds talking about nerdy things every week. That's all we've got for now. Hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day. See ya.